We're just here to tell you how much we love you, and we'll always be here for you, no matter what, son.
Oh, thank you.
Just remember that.
I love you guys too.
That don't melt my mind. And I'll let you know I got baptized yesterday.
They told me you were doing that. That's awesome.
And I did get baptized.
Thank you for doing that. That's awesome.
And the water was warm. It was a good day. That's what your mother said. I had a little chest cold the day before that. Your mother said, "You sure be doing a deep breath. Everything's gonna be all right."
I know. I keep hope.
Yeah, that's all you can do. That's all you can do. Just keep on going. I guess I need a little bit up in the camera. I'm looking down.
No, I can see you. It's cool. I just want to make sure my face is still in there.
No, yeah, it is. It is. I like this jacket. It's nice and warm.
Yeah.
Your mother said, I said, nope, that was mine.
Yeah.
And what Dalton said the other day, I said, Papa, you ain't a Steelers fan, are you? I said, this is Uncle Chris's. I said, I can still pull the Steelers and Panthers both.
Yeah, you just got to wait every 4 years when they play each other.
Yeah, exactly. At least they play each other Thursday night, so we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
Chris Watts appeared to the outside world to have the perfect life. Married to Shannon Watts, a bubbly and devoted mother with 2 young daughters, Bella and Celeste, he seemed like the picture of the all-American family. Social media painted an idealized version of domestic bliss, smiling selfies, birthday celebrations, and happy family moments.
Thank you for the world so thank you for the world so sweet. Thank you for the food we eat. Thank you for the birds that sing. Thank you, God, for everything. Amen.
But behind the curated posts and the public smiles, a darker reality simmered. In his confessions to investigators, Chris admitted that the life everyone saw was a facade, a carefully constructed illusion he maintained, while hiding an obsession that would spiral into murder. He told authorities he felt trapped in his marriage, describing his emotional detachment and growing resentment toward Shannon. He confessed to feeling suffocated, claiming that his desperation for freedom intensified over time. "I didn't want to be married anymore," he admitted, his voice recorded in chilling monotone during interrogation. The confession wasn't just about a fleeting feeling. It revealed a systematic buildup to his ultimate act of violence. He spoke about the weight of his double life, how he had begun an affair with a co-worker, Nicole Kessinger, months before the murders, and how that relationship festered into an obsession, driving him to fantasies that would become reality. In his interviews with the police, Chris disclosed the moments that marked his breaking point. He described lying to Shannon about his feelings, masking his detachment behind smiles, casual conversation, and mundane family routines. He admitted that he became increasingly irritable, and his confessions detailed a mind tormented by guilt, yet paradoxically planning. He even acknowledged the cold calculation of his acts, explaining how he tricked Shannon into leaving their home under the guise of a business trip, one of the final steps before the murders. The facade of happiness was central to his deception. Chris's confessions revealed the stark contrast between the charming father figure portrayed online and the man who felt his life was unbearable. He described hiding his rage, masking his motives, and rehearsing the lies he would tell authorities and family alike. His words to investigators exposed the first cracks in that illusion: the dissatisfaction, the secret affair, and the mental unraveling that would lead to the ultimate betrayal. Chris Watts' confessions revealed the chilling moments that directly preceded the murders. He admitted to luring Shannon away from their home under the pretense of a work trip, a calculated move he had planned over several days. In the recorded interrogations, he described the cold, methodical way he approached the act, explaining that he saw it as the only way to free himself from the life he claimed he no longer wanted. He confessed that he felt a strange detachment, describing his emotions not as rage but as numbness, as if he were watching events unfold in a movie. He recounted how he first killed Shannon in their marital bed, confessing the precise sequence of events with a calm, almost clinical tone. The confession was chilling in its detail. He admitted to wrapping her body in sheets, then moving her into the vehicle to dispose of it. Each step was deliberate, and in his words, he repeatedly emphasized that he never intended to be caught. Watts told investigators that at the time, he thought of his daughters only briefly, almost as an afterthought, before moving on to commit the unthinkable. His confessions also revealed the murder of Bella and Celeste. He admitted that their deaths were spur of the moment, driven by fear that they would be witnesses. Chris described his actions with haunting detachment, explaining how he carried the children one by one to the oil tanks on his worksite, confessing that he knew the horror of his acts but felt powerless to stop himself once the first act was committed. His words reflected a man who understood the magnitude of his crimes, yet stripped himself of emotion, narrating events as if reporting facts rather than describing the deaths of his own family. Even after the murders, Watts confessed to the deception he maintained for nearly a week. He recalled pretending to be worried for Shannon and the girls, posting social media messages, and giving interviews to authorities. He described the strategic lies he told, how he staged evidence, and the manipulations he carried out to appear innocent. In his confessions, Watts admitted that he initially believed he could evade suspicion, but as the investigation closed in, he felt the weight of his actions, culminating in a full confession that stunned investigators with its blunt honesty. As the investigation unfolded, Chris Watts' confessions began to reveal the full extent of his deception. From the very first interview, he portrayed himself as the worried husband and father, but investigators could sense cracks in his story. During hours of questioning, he confessed to lying about his whereabouts, explaining how he meticulously crafted alibis to divert suspicion. He admitted that each lie felt heavier, and in his own words, he started to feel the walls closing in as detectives pieced together the timeline. Watts' confessions during interrogation painted a picture of a man who was both calculating and detached. He described how he attempted to maintain normalcy in the days following the murders, returning to work, interacting with coworkers, and even answering media calls as the missing mother and daughter's case dominated headlines. He admitted that part of him was fascinated by the investigation, watching from the sidelines as the authorities closed in, all while knowing the horrifying truth. The duality of his behavior, a calm exterior masking unthinkable crimes, was central to his narrative. One of the most disturbing elements of his confession was the emotionless way he recounted the murders. He admitted that he never thought he would harm his daughters, but once Shannon was dead, he felt there was no other choice. He confessed to moments of fleeting panic, realizing that if he left the children alive, they could expose him, and that thought alone drove him to commit the second part of his unimaginable act. Chris described each moment with unnerving clarity, how he carried Bella and Celeste to the oil tanks, the mechanics of the act, and the immediate aftermath. He repeatedly acknowledged the finality of his decisions, the irreversible nature of what he had done, and the cold, deliberate mindset that allowed him to continue. Watts also confessed to the psychological toll the murders took on him. Though outwardly detached, he admitted to feelings of guilt and anxiety that crept in during rare moments of solitude. He described obsessively checking news coverage, monitoring law enforcement activity, and fearing that even a small misstep could reveal him. In these confessions, he revealed the irony of his situation. A man who thought he could escape responsibility but was trapped by his own lies and the meticulous nature of investigators. By the end of the interrogation, Chris Watts' confessions had laid bare the horrifying truth. He had constructed a carefully controlled life, only to systematically destroy it. The investigators finally had the clarity that the public had been desperate for, the full, chilling sequence of events, narrated without remorse, hesitation, or embellishment. For the first time, the world would hear from him directly, inside the very hell he had created. The discovery of the bodies marked the moment when Chris Watts' confessions became horrifyingly real. In his interviews with police, he admitted the precise locations of Shannon, Bella, and Celeste, detailing how he had placed each one in the oil tanks at his worksite.
What happened? So can you start from the beginning and tell us what happened?
Everything that I've told you, I did not lie on this polygraph. I don't know how much I could tell you right now. Like, I did not.
It's not even an option right now because you did not pass the polygraph. So I know you were being deceptive. So that's not even an issue right now. The issue right now is what happened to Shanann, Bella, and Celeste. That's the issue right now.
Okay.
Okay. So let's talk about that. I know you want to tell us. I can see it in your face. Holding this lie in is going to do nothing for you.
I know this. Like, okay. I'm not like trying to like cover things up. Like.
Yeah, but you kind of are because it's normal. Normal people would do that. Normal people that make a mistake initially are going to go, I don't know what you're talking about. I didn't do anything. That's normal. I would expect that. It's just like if you ask your kid, did you write on the wall? And they go, no. And you're like, you have a marker on your hand. Like, I know you just wrote on the wall. And they're like, oh, okay. That's a natural reaction that someone's going to initially lie about something like that and then eventually tell the truth. So this is your eventually telling the truth time. This is where the rubber meets the road, Chris. Like, don't let this continue any longer, please.
I'm not trying to make anything continue. Like, I want them back home, like.
But you know they're not coming back home. You know that.
I don't know in the back of my head. I hope they come back home.
But you know they're not.
I hope they come back home. Mm-hmm. And I don't know they're not coming back home.
Chris, Timmy and I are confused, okay? And here's what we're confused about. I told you that we've done some work overnight.
Yeah.
I told you that we've got a lot of leads, okay? That wasn't a lie.
I know.
We know a lot more than you think we do, okay? And here's where we're confused. You're this great guy, and I'm not just telling you that, okay? I'm telling you that because everyone tells us that, okay? We can't find anyone to say anything bad about you. Chris is a great guy. He's a good father. He's a good man. We're confused as to why you're not taking care of your beautiful children.
I'm not taking care of them right now?
Right now. Where are they?
I don't know where they're at. Honestly, I do not know where they are at. If I could have my babies back home right now, I would. I want them back. I want everybody back. That is the God's honest truth.
He confessed that at the time, he never imagined anyone would uncover his actions so quickly. When authorities recovered the remains, the meticulous planning he described in his confessions came into stark relief. The wrapping of Shannon in bedding, the way he attempted to conceal the children, and the cold calculation in each step of his grim plan. Watts confessed to the emotional disconnect he felt when disposing of his family. In his words, he described carrying the children to the tanks like objects, a phrase that chilled investigators. He admitted that once the acts were complete, he felt a fleeting sense of relief, though it was immediately replaced by fear and anxiety. He explained that part of him still longed to be seen as the loving husband and father, which drove his next confessions. The manipulations he carried out while law enforcement searched desperately for his family. He confessed to posting on social media, speaking to the media, and answering friends' calls, all while maintaining the facade of the concerned, grieving father. In his confessions, Watts also revealed moments of inner conflict. Though he described himself as detached, he admitted to brief flashes of panic and guilt when imagining what the world would think of him. He confessed that these moments were fleeting, overpowered by his focus on maintaining the lies that kept suspicion away from him. Investigators noted the chilling duality in his statements. A man fully aware of the horror he had inflicted yet capable of recounting it in an almost casual tone. Watts' confessions during this period also revealed the psychological manipulation he tried to maintain over those around him. He described convincing neighbors, coworkers, and friends of the narrative he had constructed, that Shannon and the children had disappeared, and that he was merely a victim of circumstance. He admitted that this deception was central to his survival, as it delayed suspicion and allowed him to continue his carefully orchestrated lies. The confessions highlighted not only the brutality of his actions, but the strategic and calculating mind behind them, offering a window into the hell he created, a world of deceit, horror, and unimaginable betrayal. The interrogation that led to Chris Watts' full confession was a turning point in the investigation. In hours of questioning, he began to reveal the chilling details of his crimes, piece by piece. Watts admitted that from the very beginning he had carefully planned how he would avoid detection. He confessed that the act of killing Shannon was deliberate, carried out in a moment of cold calculation rather than impulse, and that disposing of her body was executed with methodical precision. He described how he transported her to the worksite, concealing her in oil tanks, and how he repeated the process with Bella and Celeste, admitting that the fear of exposure drove him to commit the unthinkable. During the confessions, Watts spoke candidly about his mindset in the days leading up to the murders. He admitted feeling trapped, isolated, and desperate, and he confessed that these feelings fueled the fantasies that ultimately became reality. He explained that his affair with Nicole Kessinger had intensified his dissatisfaction with his family life, and he described how he imagined a future free from his marriage. In chilling detail, he recounted the exact moments when his imagined freedom turned into premeditated action, offering investigators insight into the psychological spiral that led him to destroy his entire family. Watts also confessed to the psychological games he played after the murders. He described the deliberate steps he took to convince law enforcement, friends, and family that he was innocent, posting on social media, giving interviews, and feigning despair. He admitted that he monitored the investigation obsessively, aware that any mistake could expose him. The confession revealed not only the horror of his crimes, but the depth of his manipulation, showing a man who had built an entire facade to protect himself, even as the truth weighed on him. One of the most disturbing aspects of his confessions was the detachment with which he described his actions. Watts spoke without visible emotion, recounting the murders and the concealment of the bodies in clinical, precise terms. He acknowledged understanding the magnitude of his crimes, yet he conveyed them as if they were facts to be reported, rather than the deaths of his wife and daughters. These confessions exposed the terrifying reality of the hell he had created, a world where love, trust, and family had been destroyed, replaced by calculation, fear, and cold-blooded betrayal. After his full confession, Chris Watts' words began to paint the horrifying reality of the aftermath he created, not just for his family, but for everyone around him. He admitted to watching the media coverage with a strange mixture of fear and fascination. News outlets plastered his family's smiling faces across every screen, and social media exploded with grief, sympathy, and speculation. In his confessions, Watts described feeling the weight of every headline, every post, every question directed at him, yet he maintained the detachment that had carried him through the murders. He confessed that part of him was haunted by the public's trust in him, the same trust he had shattered completely. Watts also recounted his time in custody, describing long hours spent reflecting on what he had done. In his confessions, he admitted to moments of panic and remorse, fleeting flashes of guilt that collided with the cold reality of his actions. He explained that he grappled with the thought that nothing could undo what he had done, and that no apology could ever bring back Shannon, Bella, or Celeste. Yet, even as he confessed to these fleeting emotions, he maintained a clinical tone when describing the mechanics of the crimes, revealing the chilling duality of his psyche, capable of guilt, yet utterly methodical in his actions. Another disturbing element Watts confessed to was the strategic manipulation of those investigating him. He admitted that during early interviews, he carefully controlled his words, offering only partial truths and gauging reactions. He described the mental calculations he made, predicting which statements would be believable and which might arouse suspicion. In these confessions, he revealed an unsettling awareness of human behavior, using it to his advantage to maintain the illusion of innocence for as long as possible. Watts also confessed to the personal impact of his crimes, explaining how he was now forced to confront the consequences of his actions daily. He admitted that every interaction, every visit from investigators, and every media story reinforced the magnitude of the hell he had created. He described an internal reckoning, a combination of fear, shame, and fascination, as he navigated life behind bars. In his confessions, he repeatedly acknowledged that he could never escape the reality of what he had done, and that the world would remember the horrific choices that had destroyed his family forever. The courtroom became the stage where Chris Watts' confessions were laid bare for the world to see. In a series of hearings, he admitted to every detail of the murders, leaving little room for doubt. During his statements, Watts described the chilling sequence of events once again, this time in the presence of prosecutors, victims' family, and the public. His confessions were precise: the planning, the execution, and the disposal of Shannon, Bella, and Celeste. Each revelation underscored the horrifying reality of his crimes, exposing the depth of deception and manipulation he had employed. Watts admitted that entering the courtroom was surreal, a moment that forced him to confront the consequences of his actions in the most tangible way. He confessed to feeling detached during the hearings, yet he also acknowledged an undercurrent of fear and shame. His words painted the portrait of a man who understood the permanence of his crimes, aware that every detail he confessed would define him for the rest of his life. He described the psychological toll of seeing the faces of the investigators and prosecutors who had pieced together his lies, admitting that their presence was a constant reminder of the world he had shattered. During sentencing, Watts' confessions revealed a deeper awareness of the lives he had destroyed. He admitted to thinking about Shannon, Bella, and Celeste, acknowledging their innocence and the irrevocable harm he had caused. He confessed to fleeting moments of regret, moments when he wished he could undo what had been done, yet he also described the overwhelming inevitability he felt leading up to the murders. The courtroom became a place where the juxtaposition of human grief and cold confession collided, leaving everyone present with a haunting understanding of the hell he had created. Watts' confessions also highlighted his manipulative tendencies, even in the courtroom. He admitted that parts of him wanted to appear cooperative and remorseful, aware that this behavior might influence public perception and judicial outcomes. He described the careful balance he tried to maintain between honesty and self-preservation, offering investigators and the court exactly what they needed to confirm the truth without fully exposing his emotional state. Through these confessions, the world saw not just the horror of the crimes, but the complex and calculating mind behind them. A man who meticulously dismantled his family, manipulated those around him, and ultimately faced the consequences with a disturbing blend of detachment and acknowledgement. Even behind bars, Chris Watts' confessions continue to reveal the disturbing reality of the hell he created. He admitted to living each day surrounded by the consequences of his actions, a constant reminder that the life he once claimed to cherish was destroyed forever. In interviews and statements to investigators, he described the monotony and isolation of prison life, confessing that every routine, every interaction, and every visit from guards forced him to confront the gravity of what he had done. Watts reflected that there was no escape from the truth, no illusion to hide behind, and no forgiveness to be found. Watts' confessions also highlighted the lasting impact of his crimes on those around him. He admitted that even now, the memory of Shannon, Bella, and Celeste haunted him, though not in the form of grief he could express openly. Instead, He described a persistent awareness of the fear, pain, and loss he caused, not just to his family, but to friends, neighbors, and an entire community shocked by his actions. He confessed that the weight of that knowledge was inescapable, a constant presence that mirrored the hell he had once imposed on his own household. Perhaps most chilling were Watts' reflections on his own psychology. He confessed to recognizing the dark patterns that led him to murder, acknowledging that he had allowed resentment, obsession, and selfish desire to grow unchecked. In his words, he admitted that the planning and execution of his crimes were fueled by a combination of fear, manipulation, and detachment, revealing the terrifying reality of a man who methodically dismantled the lives of those he was supposed to love. Yet he also confessed to moments of introspection, rare glimpses of understanding the irreversibility of his actions, though they offered no solace, no redemption, only the cold truth of what he had done. In conclusion, Chris Watts' confessions provide a haunting window into the mind of a killer, exposing the carefully constructed facade of a perfect life and the calculated decisions that led to unimaginable tragedy. His admissions reveal not just the events themselves, but the psychological complexity behind them, the manipulations, the detachment, and the fleeting moments of guilt that punctuated his actions. The hell he created extends far beyond the deaths of Shannon, Bella, and Celeste. It lingers in the memories of those left behind and in the chilling reality of a man who confessed everything, yet could never undo what he had done. Watts' words serve as a grim reminder. Appearances can deceive, and the darkest truths often lie just beneath the surface.